The Skywalker rises, brother. On today's episode of Certain Point of View.
I was not prepared.
Hey, Nerdburner, I'm Addy Thomas.
I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View. As we wrap up this series of Star Wars podcasts episodes following the Skywalker Saga.
Are we going to do a retrospective?
No.
Also, are we going to do a reunion tour?
No. No.
No.
No.
See the disgust.
You can't do a reunion tour without doing a tour first.
No, I think we could pull it off. Our very first tour.
Just go to BlurredCon again and fail miserably again.
Yeah.
We're back, guys. We're going to make some borderline racist jokes again. But, you know.
Technically, that was a scruffy Nerf herder show.
That's true. That's true. But that's when it was still on Certain Point of View.
I mean, we don't talk about
Yeah, those were dark times.
That was
before the Empire.
You're on fire tonight.
I've had a lot of quotes flowing through my head from various
how many
franchises.
times have you seen
I've seen it 3 times
already? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that was just like, I mean, first off, it's Star Wars. I'm going to watch it multiple times.
Right.
But there was our first.
Well, I used to think that.
Yeah. I really hope you do see this a second time while it's in theaters.
But in the theaters.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it another chance before you completely, sideline this thing.
I'm gonna Obi-Wan and Yoda this one and just be like, yeah, he's bad. It's a bad movie.
They're still good at him, Ben.
Yeah. My kids may believe that.
Yeah. So I saw it 3 times. The first time, obviously with you and a bunch of our really good friends, Case and J. Mike, Brielle, and Sean. Mm-hmm. And we had a nice dinner afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it got a little tense at moments in the discussion. Like, I feel you needed the reins pulled back out, which was a little surprising.
I got it. This sounds bad. I was so kind of disappointed in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was having a hard time not raging.
Well, you know what's funny is I feel like I've been the one who's been the most affected by anti-Last Jedi hate.
Yeah.
And it felt like you were the one who carried that cross. Like, I felt it had passed from me to you during that movie. Because I feel I had already come to terms with, like, oh, they don't like Last Jedi. I think I heard just enough before going into this movie that I'd come to terms with it. Like, I had already heard that the Emperor Palpatine appearance isn't really ever justified. It doesn't really make sense. So going into that, knowing that,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that helped me. That helped. I think that is the only reason I'm not in the same boat you're in right now.
That plot was so bad. It made no sense.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, we're doing spoilers, guys.
and it not only I was just talking to our friend Dania. And I was just like, not only was this plot a mess, but it retroactively made the previous 2 movies' plots a mess.
Well, it makes the whole series a mess.
Makes it a mess.
You know what's interesting is, so there was an observation we made in our last episode about The Last Jedi. It was like one of the things I noticed on the most recent rewatches, and it was this idea that that whenever a character looks into the future and pretty much bets on that future as assured, is when mistakes happen.
Right.
And the funny thing is, for the first time ever in Star Wars, someone looks into the future, and the path they look at is right. And that's essentially Leia and kind of Luke, but not really Luke. Like, there's major inconsistencies with that. But Leia kind of sees this idea of, well, Ben is not going to work out, and there's going to be someone else who fixes everything. And she has confidence in Rey. Yet she decides to stop her training because Ben is not going to end up. It's going to go down a dark path. But yet she still has hope for him. And
she trains a Palpatine who
she
knows
because she has a good spirit. Like, there's all sorts of really mixed messages.
How does she know
Case had
she's
a really
Palpatine?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and apparently Luke also knew. Right. I mean, you and I knew because the music, in Force Awakens, and was not particularly subtle. And I mentioned on on my review with Hans on Real Movie News, Hans and Steven, that there's a great YouTube channel, Sideways, where he goes into real deep analysis of soundtracks. But he basically says that, like, he shows and lays out that Palpatine's and Rey's themes are connected.
Yeah.
So it kind of was already a foregone conclusion that was going to happen. And even when we talked before, like, I think there was always going to be some connection between Palpatine and Rey.
And I don't mind that, to be honest.
Right.
Like, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm already ready to another pass this. I have millions of, like, so many ideas of how I could fix this movie. Like, I feel this movie is actually not that far from.
There's just a couple, like, there's just some steps in logic that are missing. There's just too much information missing for it to be like, okay, why?
Like, I think, like, they could have done, like, a Weapon X relationship between Palpatine and Rey, like, where, let's say her parents sold her on Jakku. There was already an Imperial installation on Jakku, and that could have been a place where they were training Force-sensitive kids. Some of them have been kidnapped. Some of them have been sold to them. Like, I think what would have been a really cool idea is you could have even had, like, Palpatine's DNA was used or something like that to enhance them. And if you want to make it still the idea that she's chosen her fate and is against her purpose, but she's still a nobody, you can have all of that working with that. All you have to do is make the Knights of Ren the other students that were at that school, and that she's the only one who decided to take the right path, and the rest of them were the Knights of Ren. You got a Ren and Rey connection, like everything works, perfectly.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways that you could make it.
Yeah, I'm sure other people have even better ideas on that stuff too.
No, that was it.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel really accomplished for not doing anything. Yeah, you know what? We don't need to do that another past episode with Case.
Just nailed it right there.
Yeah. But that being said,
it has a that's good enough feel to it.
Yeah,
which is perfect for this movie.
Right. And you know what? That's the thing. Like, this movie is still fun.
It is.
That's why
There's a lot about this movie I really like.
I love the Rey, Poe, and Finn dynamic. I love
the lightsaber duels.
Right.
Oh, they're fantastic. They're not as flowy and flippy as the prequels.
Yeah.
And they're a little more slowed down, but they're perfect. They're the perfect balance between the slow plodding lightsaber fights
of the originals
and like the crazy acrobatic of the prequels.
And this one had an opportunity to do some crazy acrobatic, but just fun. Like, because like some of the stuff on the ruins of the Death Star was fantastic.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you heard when I was recording Real Movie News, but the one there was one little thing that bothered me is they didn't have music during that duel.
Oh yeah.
It felt like it did that did undercut it a little bit.
Yeah, you needed that.
It needs the music.
And that kind of nails this movie for me.
Yeah,
is that it just falls short at the end of the day.
Yeah, Case had a really interesting point that JJ he's not a good writer.
No,
he knows how to make things look cool. I think it's just one of those.
He knows how to set the table, but he doesn't know how to finish the meal.
Right. And I think it's one of those things where I'm not willing to say that JJ shouldn't do anything again, but it's just a matter of the right collaborators. It was true of George Lucas as well. And I'm sure there's fortunately we saw the magic with Rian Johnson, and I'm sure there are other collaborators we don't know of that really make that movie work, but it's fascinating. It's just like I think it's funny though, but all three final entries in each of these trilogies have been kind of subpar. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Return of the Jedi. It's fun, but it does jam a lot of things really quickly. If someone made the complaint that like they introduced new characters in Rise of Skywalker, I don't find that an issue because you introduced Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi. Like, that's half the movie.
My only issue with the new character was they got Finn a new best friend who would ride horses with him, but he already had one.
Right. Well, you know what though? The one thing I actually really like about that, and this is a weird thing, because again, this movie wants to say a lot of different things, but it doesn't say it well. Because obviously, like I'm always interested. Like I just mentioned the whole idea of like looking into the future, and the problems it kind of creates, and however it somehow worked out for Leia, I guess, but like this idea that like destiny and choice and fate and are you from a special bloodline or not, like going back on that is still the thing I can't forgive in this movie for Rey is too much of a problem because it just messes with it. Sure, I think the idea of choosing choosing against the grain of what your purpose was and what your family was is a cool idea, but why do that when you already had an interesting element to follow through on, instead of like trying to introduce a brand new one at the end and try to make it all work within one movie? But with Finn, they've introduced this idea of him being Force sensitive, and I guess there's some planting for that in Force Awakens, but it's really odd because it almost like the implication for this is that to be a good person, you have to have some access to the Force.
It's awkward. Yeah, the midichlorians are attracted to you because of your bloodline.
Yeah. Well, but it isn't for Finn. I think that was JJ's way out of saying, oh, look, here's a nobody who is able to have some access to the Force.
Some access, but you can't have major access.
Right, which again is kind of an issue, but either like it's weird. But
it's weird. The choices that are really
here's the thing, like
challenging.
We've seen characters who don't have to be Force sensitive make right decisions,
right?
And I like the idea of Finn just making a good decision because he knows it isn't right to do this, and and in turn he inspires other stormtroopers to make the same decision.
There's nothing that he did that was so extraordinary that it needed the Force.
The only reason they needed to do it was a crude plot device for him to be able to recognize, oh, that's the Star Destroyer that's guiding them, and the Force has been guiding me to Rey and to Poe. Like, I'm okay with the idea of the Force is guiding him to Rey and Poe. Like, that is okay. Like, I feel there's something at work that's bigger than me. There's a purpose greater than me outside of me. Like, that's fine. That works. But then, like, all of a sudden, like, and that's the Star Destroyer. It just seems like that was just a lazy plot device at that point. Yeah. Like, that's literally, this is where you need Han to come in and say, that's not how the Force works.
That would have been amazing if they could have just had it.
Force Ghost Han pops in.
That's not how the
Force works.
That would have been fantastic.
That being said, I did really enjoy Han's reappearance in this movie.
It caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I teared up a little bit on that one.
I don't know why I didn't think I'd see him. Because all the sense in the world that he would be there.
It does because Carrie's gone. But we
Otherwise, no.
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, he would have been like, nope, I'm done with this series.
I got a plane to crash.
Yeah. But that being said, like, it mirrored the moment in Force Awakens really nicely. You do have enough strength to do what you need to do. It still worked.
Yeah.
And Ben Demption really did work for me.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on whether or not he should have died, for the sake of not having to not have the out to do more Skywalker Saga movies. I'm glad he's gone, but it is a missed opportunity for atonement. You know, like having to deal with the consequences even after you've been redeemed. But then that would mean the Skywalker Saga continues, and I'm content with the Skywalker Saga ending, not because I'm tired of it, but because I want Star Wars to tell more stories outside of the Skywalker paradigm.
Right. Because look at the great storytelling that we're getting on The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. Like, that is such a rich universe to play in.
And even though Obi-Wan and Cassian Andor are, like, adjacent to the Skywalker Saga, Obi-Wan's part of it.
Really major, yeah.
But Cassian is adjacent to the Skywalker Saga because it's in the Galactic Civil War and all of that. But I do want them to be able to eventually move past that timeline to other areas in space, or other type of genres. Like Dr. Aphra is a fantastic franchise that totally deserves.
That would be amazing. Dr. Aphra as like the evil Indiana Jones.
Oh my God, so good.
Can you imagine?
Forget doing Indiana Jones. Do a Dr. Aphra movie.
Dr. Aphra movie.
That would be awesome.
All the right Hollywood buttons.
Right?
That would be
super awesome anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. A chick.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it works.
It works.
It really works.
So
Dr. Aphra is definitely a way to go if you want to do like a Star Wars story. Breaking out, obviously Kathleen Kennedy's already talked about like we're not going to go with trilogies necessarily. Like get rid of all those structural issues. It's one of the great things we've seen with The Mandalorian is like I'm fine with a 30-minute episode if it tells the story well. Like don't force in another additional 14 minutes of filler. just because you need to fill a runtime.
Looking at you, Marvel.
You're right. But you know what? I think they've learned that lesson. I
hope they learned that lesson.
I feel like they would have learned that lesson going into. It feels like Disney Plus knows. Like they've taken a lot of time. Like The Mandalorian right now is just Lucasfilm's foray into it. But I don't get the sense. I know they've said that they're talking about 8-10 episodes max for the Marvel shows.
I feel like they're listening to us.
Yeah. As they should.
They're one of our 6 listeners.
Really, Kevin Feige just needs to hire us. Kathleen Kennedy couldn't.
He's not gonna. He's just gonna keep listening and steal our ideas.
I know. That's why That's why we're putting this on Patreon, guys. You gotta pay, Kev.
That's right. We want our dollar.
Yeah. It's this movie is frustrating, but because you know what's interesting is I think if you hadn't convinced me of how much more I enjoyed Revenge of the Sith, I don't know if I'd be as ready to let go of my attachments to some of The Last Jedi. Like appreciating Revenge of the Sith so much more this time around made me a little bit more willing to say like, oh, okay, well, this isn't what I wanted, but there's still a lot that's...
There's a ton in this movie that I like.
Yeah.
A ton in this movie that I like. I like all the stuff with Chewie, even his fake...
His fake beyond death?
Yeah. I was upset at the moment.
I knew. I was like, oh, no.
I was very upset in the moment.
Like, as soon as I saw that, like, the shuttle, like, started to struggle, I was like, oh, no, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
I felt a disturbance 2 seats away.
Yeah, you bet you did. I almost got up.
How'd you feel about like Chewie mourning Leia?
I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the moment he should have had with Han.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
They should have reversed those. And I know JJ has said as such that he regrets that.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, look, it's a process. You're just trying to get shit done sometimes.
Yeah, and it's also a movie where it's tough to like
cram air.
Yeah, because it's also like he's in a precarious moment. Like he's got stormtroopers around near him.
Right.
So like, how much mourning can you give him? And like, do you have an like Return of the King like series of epilogues where you have the Chewie mourning fade to black, and then
Yeah.
and then Eagles pick up Finn and Janna from the Star Destroyer, and which I kept on thinking like when they were on the Star Destroyer, I was like, and then the Eagles are coming.
The Eagles are coming. I kind of did expect a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Or an undead army to show up.
Right. It's you know what's funny is I've been wanting.
That actually would have been better than the fleet.
The fleet works for me, but not effectively. Undead fleet.
Oh.
Here's the thing, and this is where we're going to get a little bit into critique territory. Like, obviously, we don't like the way Palpatine was brought back, right? You know.
I don't.
Well,
no, I don't mind.
It's not that we don't mind that he's back.
I don't mind that he's back and that he's like kind of like this like shambling hung specter of.
It doesn't really make sense.
No, that actually does. Like the whole conversation that he has with Anakin, where he says like, you know, that the Sith have the ability to extend their life with some would consider unnatural. Like this is a very unnatural existence.
It is.
And I liked that they played like the horror of the Sith.
I agree with you. And one thing that I appreciated a little bit more on is last night I watched the final episode of that trilogy of Clone Wars episodes where Yoda journeys into the Force to commune with Qui-Gon. Right. And what's really interesting is Yoda mentions how the dark side is so obsessed with the physical. And I thought that was, that is cool. And I think that was kind of what they were trying to go for, too.
Yeah.
I think Terrio even mentioned it in that press conference you sent me to, was like it was the dark side's fascination with that. So, like, that makes sense. But the problem is the way they've done this is there's no reason that Palpatine can come back.
Correct.
Can't come back.
Can't come back.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah. That is a problem.
Yeah, they didn't put any barrier to his return.
But the other problem is that they've just wiped out the Sith. Like there's nothing left to balance.
Right. I mean, I guess the cycle continues because both sides rise to meet each other. Maybe. Then there's a dyad in the Force, which that's a new thing. But I don't mind that so much. I like that the connection of the two and was already something that has been teased from the beginning of this trilogy.
Sure.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of like weird elements. Also, like seriously, like Palpatine she really needs to learn to dodge his own Force lightning. That seems to be a real problem.
Only weakness.
His own Force lightning.
Own Force lightning. The only thing that
Help me, I'm weak.
this time he literally blows himself up.
Right? There's a certain poetry to that.
Just turn it.
Because it rhymed.
You're right. Sort of. And yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense in the prequels, other than like it was a plan, like he had planned it.
Well, it made sense for the prequels because he was clearly trying to get sympathy, whereas this time it was just like dodge, like seriously, like just stop, like what are you doing? But I also think like the using his own power as his own undoing thematically is the idea.
Makes a lot of sense.
And that it also allows for a Jedi to do it in defense rather than in aggression. Also, his whole weird sacrifice, like kill me so I can live on thing is, as you've said, is already very weird.
Well, not only it just doesn't make any sense because like.
They should have made him a Force ghost, and all they needed to do for the strike him down is bring Allegiant General Pride down there for him to sacrifice. That's all they needed to do. It's very easy.
Yeah.
I'm like, some things here are just like, take a moment to think about this.
It feels rushed, right? It feels real rushed.
Well, because it was. Like, he came on so late because of all the drama. Like, there's already I think the cast like even cried in happiness that they even got a director at all with the timeline that they needed. Like here's the thing, like JJ was rushed in for Force Awakens. That's why Michael Arndt left from writing from Force Awakens, because he wasn't comfortable trying to make that the May 2015 date. Then JJ hopped on and they were like, all right, we'll move it to December 2015 because obviously you need some time. And
Arndt was like, "What the hell?"
Right, but I'm sure I imagine Arndt probably wanted even more time than that.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, they should have given that to them. You know,
there's no reason not to.
Yeah, which I mean, and Force Awakens was fun.
I like Force Awakens.
Yeah, again, like
it's not my least favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but I mean, like again, get rid of Starkiller Base. Like, imagine if they had showed at the end of that movie, like, let's say that a mythical artifact, as we've said several times on this episode, should have been what they did, which was a cool part of this movie, like having the holocrons and the dagger. I thought it was awesome. Like, I thought those were great devices.
Wayfinder, man. That was not a
Wayfinder, right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Where was Story Group, man? Where was Story Group?
I know. I feel Story Group. I feel Story Group might be a little not so content with this one. It feels they really had fun with Last Jedi, but I don't know. Because I've even heard of how Filoni talked to Rian Johnson, and he told him to check out the Mortis trilogy, and Rian Johnson said he watched the Mortis trilogy and it influenced him a little bit when he wrote The Last Jedi, and that's perfect. Like, that's some of the best episodes that they've ever done. So anybody who's asking for Filoni to be studio head should remember that when they complain about Last Jedi. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think we'll need another episode to really kind of dive into the meaning of all of this series, what the Skywalker Saga means.
Where are we going from here? What is it? Yeah. What does this really mean? Like, what did we just see? We just saw a 9-movie story.
Yeah.
What was that story ultimately
about?
Yeah. And what does it have to teach us?
And I think for me, the other reason why I'm a little bit more willing to accept it is I've spent the last 2 years.
I accept it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're having a harder time grappling with it.
I don't like it.
Yeah. No, that's true. I don't need. I think the reason I'm more forgiving is I just came around on Revenge of the Sith, so I figure why waste another 10 years being angry?
I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm annoyed.
You're striking it down in your anger. You've been striking it down in your anger.
Striking everybody around me down in anger. Lashing out. This guy came into my office today.
Yeah.
Just knocks on the door and walks, and I'm like, what? Like, is it a bad time? I'm like, nah, I'm not doing anything. What's up?
You were annoyed about Rise of Skywalker, right?
Thinking about it, yeah. I was just like, why would Palpatine tell everybody?
That has been my life since Thursday night.
Like, this doesn't make any sense.
I had a very rough weekend.
I did too. I was just like, I was so angry Saturday. I was so angry. I literally made myself physically sick. I was so angry. I was just like, I don't understand. Why would you tell the enemy you're coming with a big armada?
Which also is inconsistent because
Why does he need Starkiller base?
Well, first off, were there crew? Like, it's funny because I remember joking about this when we were talking about the trailers.
Yeah.
But there aren't crews on those Star Destroyers, right? When he raised them out of the ice, because that would suck living in that ice for 30 years. Because here's the thing, it cut later, and there's the First Order with black and red. They had time to rebrand.
He built a whole new armada.
But here's the other thing:
nobody in the entire universe knew about.
Which is another thing that I'm gonna pass on the armada being out there because they already had some. There is stuff in the
where
they've talked about
explored space,
right? And he's been sending out stuff into the into the unknown regions and all. So I'll give it a pass. Is it crazy? Of course,
so insane.
It is. But here's the interesting thing. So, is there? I'm still not sure if there was a crew on that or not, or if it's the First Order crew, because it does seem like later on it is the First Order crew. But yet he threatens to turn that fleet on Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And who is he going to do that with?
He had an entire.
So are those occultists who got the StubHub tickets to be at the sacrifice?
Some of them. I would assume.
Because you do see cultists working on stuff when they first introduce them. So he's got these acolytes, I guess, at the very least.
Yeah, and all these planets that apparently he's been working on and building a giant armada out of. So he had enough time.
So then why does he even need the First Order
galaxy? But he had enough time then to also take over
the unknown regions.
And establish a massive armada that can control the previous universe that we knew about.
Yeah, and he didn't just come in whenever he felt like it. He had all these.
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody ever knew.
Yeah.
Managed to build that entire fleet without anybody knowing.
Yeah, that didn't.
And then, instead of surprising the universe you're about to conquer,
hello, is this thing on? I'm out here on Exegol.
I've got the biggest fleet.
And I'm not talking about my pants.
I'm so on fleet right now. Is that what the kids say?
I want to make on fleet a thing. Yeah, there are so many problems with that. I mean, here's the other thing: the Snoke thing.
I was behind him all along, and then he's got him in a jar.
Which is hilarious. Here's the thing. I actually thought there was a potential for something really cool there. Is that could have been part of the seduction of Kylo Ren, him striking him down, Kylo Ren striking down Snoke would be the way for him to earn being part of Palpatine's empire. That's all they just needed to add a line there. That's really all they needed to do. If he had just said
maybe
when I knew you would be ready once you struck down Snoke. That's all you needed.
But ultimately, all he wants is somebody to strike him down.
Which is another problem. That's why Darkseid Force Ghost should have been the thing.
Because it makes no sense. His plan makes no sense. My plan is to you to strike me down so I can inhabit your body.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
But then he's also okay with his granddaughter taking the throne, apparently, at one moment. But when she doesn't want... there's all sorts of problems.
It's was that his plan in The Force Awakens?
Well, you know what's interesting is he is shocked. It does seem like what he does want is for the spirit of the Sith to inhabit someone, and I think he does think that's going to be Ben. But then Ben ends up getting redeemed, and he says the Princess of Alderaan has thrown a wrench in my plans, right? Huh? So then he pivots to Rey.
Wouldn't he know about Rey?
And I think but that's his option is so if she doesn't kill Rey, then he'll try to seduce her. I think he's just playing it loose.
To put it mildly. To put it very, this man dominated an entire galactic senate.
His machinations are like jazz, man. I don't think you get it.
Definitely don't get it. Definitely.
But you know what I was going to build to is he does seem surprised that he is able to restore his own body once he gets access to the energy from.
Sure.
Like
it does play that way. I know. I noticed it when I saw it, but it's still.
I still didn't like it.
I was like, how do you not know that? Like
for him knowing all these other things, like he knows about the world between worlds and all sorts of other stuff,
and he knows like a die whatever
the dyad.
The dyad.
Oh, you're the dyad. It only happens a generation.
How does he not know that if he's the guy who's behind Snoke?
Right, because Snoke makes the connection. Well, like, is Snoke his own consciousness independent? No, he's not, because that was the voice. I don't know.
It makes no sense, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sloppy. It's sloppy as hell. That's why it ranks it does rank really low for me. It's like 7th out of 11.
Oh, it's 11.
Yeah, it's 11 for you?
It's 11.
It's really worse than Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Yes. Yeah. Because at least Palpatine makes sense in his machinations. And
does he?
Yeah.
Does he really?
Yeah, way more than this, Addy. We just spent like a half hour laughing hysterically at the plot of this movie.
Yeah,
and we haven't gotten into like 7 other gripes I have with this movie.
Right. Well, we're saving a lot of the theme stuff for another episode.
Yeah. So yeah, it's to me this is the worst Star Wars movie I've seen. That doesn't mean that I like that.
That doesn't mean you don't like it. I know.
Right?
I get
I'm not like they ruined Star Wars. No, I just don't think this is a good.
It does kind of feel like your childhood was molested, right?
That was my childhood. It doesn't feel like it.
No, here's the thing. For me, like the way I'm ranking my Star Wars movies is like a lot of it is how much meaning I can find from it and thematic consistency. And as bad as this is, I feel like I could get more out of this than Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and even out of Solo. Like Solo's fun, but there's really not much substance to Solo past the one-off adventure.
Fan service.
Yeah,
it's just fan service.
Yeah,
it's fun fan service, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, which is just too bad that when the lady asks Rey at the end of the movie what her last name is, she doesn't. Well, you're alone, so you should be Rey Solo. I just want that to just be a thing. Like Solo is the Snow of Star Wars.
Yes. Oh, that would be amazing. Oh, that would be so.
It's just a common last name for every loner.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't have a family.
Solo.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Like, I can go back to Corellia. I don't have to live in this shitty desert.
Right? I mean, even going back to Tatooine was the fan service of like ultimate.
I didn't mind that she went.
I was fine with it.
Buried the
sabers and had her own.
It was fine, but it made it look like she was staying there.
Oh, did you think that?
Yeah,
no, I thought she was. I definitely thought she was just there to bury the sabers.
No,
I would have thought if she did, I thought she would have started cleaning up all the sand in that house. Because, dear God,
I mean that's a losing battle.
Yeah,
you're just never gonna.
I've seen so many fantastic memes of like angry Anakin, like montages being angry that she comes back to the Tatooine.
Saber in the sand.
Oh, bitch! I hate you.
No.
Right.
Oh, so funny.
There's a lot that like I feel like maybe I'm already doing like Robot Chicken stuff in my head with this movie.
Yeah.
And I've been enjoying that aspect a lot. And I'm not saying that to make fun of the movie, but like
I am. I'm gonna have so much fun with this.
Yeah. Because I still imagine that lady at the end is like an Amazon driver that's just delivering power converters.
What are you doing there?
I think it's power converters.
Hey, these have been sitting in the back for a couple of years here. Is there a Luke Skywalker here?
You related to Luke?
You know a Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's
and like, what is she? She just suddenly appears.
Yeah,
she's not on a speeder. She's just taking a stroll through the desert.
Here's one thing. Here's my biggest hope coming out of this movie, though, is we get a series, and maybe this is because I've been spoiled by Filoni, but I do want a series very much like Clone Wars to have between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker with Rayfin and Poe. Like, feature the main characters. Get Rose, all that stuff. Like, have the Resistance trying to survive, like, planet to planet, inspiring people in the galaxy. Because here's the thing, like, that fleet moment.
They don't have to.
Yeah, you can. You can still like, remember we did not think like the prequels would be fixed. Like, think about how much.
No, but they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And they don't do that because they say like there's a question whether or not anybody will answer.
Right, you can still do that while still inspiring people but still leaving it open.
And then my second point is they don't need to because Palpatine does it for them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. There's going to be ways. There's going to be stuff to hamper it, but they did figure out a way to make like really annoying Hayden Christensen likable. They figured out a way to make that work. If you can make that work, I'm sorry, miracles are possible.
They were really harsh on Hayden.
There was nothing likable, and it's not Hayden's fault, but there was nothing likable about Hayden Christensen's Anakin. Before Clone Wars?
Gray hair.
Get out of here. No, but like see. Here's the thing. I do like that moment of the fleet arriving
because it's hard to remember
before the Clone Wars.
Yeah, how
I remember not liking it, but I remember after Clone Wars appreciating that a lot more.
Yeah. I guess
maybe other than like scattered moments in Revenge of the Sith, where it did feel like the friendship between Anakin and Obi-Wan felt like a real friendship. Other than that, there wasn't really a lot because his love plays off his obsession, and that's another thing. Like there was mixed messages because in the prequels of like love and obsession kind of all got mixed together, so it almost felt like the movie was about like, don't love people, it's going to lead to the dark side. Like, and similar to this movie, which is like having issues of like, you're only special if you're related to somebody, but you can be kind of force sensitive like Finn maybe, and and like, I mean, there's all sorts of like ideas that just kind of eat each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of thematic differences that don't mesh.
Right. Because like one thing I for a moment I thought they were going to do it. They got really close to it when they were on Planet Bollywood, and there was like they saw like there was a scene where you saw all the kids getting entertained by this puppet show.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping
I was thinking they were telling the Luke Skywalker story.
Right? I was really hoping. No. And I was really hoping like it wasn't like it was still cool that it was Lando, but the person who shot the stormtrooper I thought was just going to be like, hey, we're people here, we believe in you guys, like you could have something with the rings
and bring them to Lando.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like you could have done stuff like that, but I think there's still chance for them to do that kind of stuff with they could do that kind of stuff with an animated series or comics or books in between.
Yeah, for sure. But
because that's stuff that is difficult to do in a bigger movie.
But I do remember seeing that in the movie and going, man, and thinking to myself, they really missed an opportunity there.
Yeah, I saw it immediately.
I was like, that's such an obvious thing to do.
Yeah,
to miss it is
because you even had the guy who gets his head cut off, who's like win the war. Like you could. There was there was sort of this palpable sense of like, like the desperation, but still like the idea that they were like the spark of resistance to carry over from Rian Johnson's version of the story. But like it really now feels like Broom Boy doesn't matter anymore. Like they had like a fantastic thing there with like the idea of Luke's story. Like I know I jokingly like used the my Bane impression for the Skywalker Rises, but it could, I mean sure it would have been cheesy as hell, but imagine like when the fleet arrives. First off, the fleet didn't arrive at their most desperate hour. Like it was just Poe saying, "Oh my God, I regret. I don't know.
Well, this isn't going to work out.
This is going to work out, guys." Like it needed to be like a final run at a Star Destroyer, like to maybe not even to try to evacuate. Maybe he wanted to just get there to get Finn out of there to preserve and survive. But when they're doing that and all hope comes is lost, like you need to get that shot out of the corner, just like kind of like now it's fan servicey for a moment, but Like it's good fan servicey, and it's not exclusive to Star Wars. But the way the Falcon comes out in the original Death Star trench run, like that would have been perfect. And having that fleet, like the reveal to the fleet, I kind of wish like Lando said, like there was sort of like this idea of like people like saying the Skywalker rises as sort of a code phrase or as a rallying phrase, you know, rather than necessarily
being a literal Skywalker.
Yeah,
which dies.
Yeah.
Like, the mislead on this title for this movie
Yeah.
it's so funny because it should be Palpatine Rises. If you had just, like, it's not like it was a secret that we knew he was in this movie.
Yeah.
If you had named this movie Palpatine Rises.
Well, it goes into the idea
so
of her
great.
choosing who she wants to be. Choosing your family. So, I don't fault that
okay, but
too much.
Weird because, like, Star Wars has been so much about the redemption of a family.
Right.
And this movie is about,
destroy your past.
Fuck my family. I want to be with those guys.
Well, they got a bounce house over there.
We have cookies. Screw your cookies, old man. 2020, get with the program.
Yeah. I did like them stepping up the Force time.
Yeah, no, that was cool that they could like
taking it to the next step.
Interact with each other's.
Yeah,
it was very cool.
I was that I enjoyed. Like I do love whenever Rey and Kylo Ren are together in a scene. It worked for me. Yeah,
it's the most interesting I have found Rey to be.
Yeah,
this trilogy.
Well, because I think that was the stuff that also worked for me in Last Jedi. Because like the moment they touch and like Luke, walks in, like the tension between them has been fantastic. That's why, like, I know some people were like, "Wait, where did the Reylo thing come out of?" Like, felt like they came out of left field. But like,
what?
Yeah, I was like, well, clearly you haven't been on the internet. But two, like, it worked for me. Like, I'm glad the Reylos were rewarded for their faith.
Too. I thought it was cool. Because I never. Like, it felt a lot of times that they were pushing Rey and Finn,
right?
And I was like, I don't really like that. So I was a Reylo guy.
Yeah,
I'm still a Reylo guy. I liked
Reylo and Ben Demption. Were both things that we wanted.
It was great too. Like, and I think that's something that we called from the beginning. We both agreed was like something that was gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, he was tempted by the light. Like, that's one of the first.
First sign. Not being a bad guy.
Yeah,
you like good things.
You know what's really interesting? You should check out the Rise of Kylo Ren comic.
I need to,
because it does show that he did not do nearly as many bad things as we think.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yes and no. He's still not a good guy. Let's not pretend like he was. He clearly still was responsible for a lot of bad stuff. But it does feel like they may be going too far on some of that stuff. Because apparently, I was reading that
too far. What direction?
So maybe he was a lot better than we thought.
Oh, he wasn't as bad as we thought he was.
Right, because apparently there's this whole thing.
Do you think that's too far?
Well, because you should. Redemption is still something that happens no matter. Like, redemption is still.
Yeah, and the worse the person is.
Yeah,
right.
The more dramatic. Yeah. So, but there's this idea that apparently there's this idea that he did not support Starkiller Base at all, and that he was horrified when Starkiller Base destroys all those planets. Which doesn't play in the movie, but apparently is like I was reading that somewhere. There's something
in the novel.
I didn't read that in the novel either.
I
read the novel.
I read the novel too, and I remember there being a line about him not liking.
Yeah, maybe it was. I guess that's the only place where it could have been.
There may have been.
But apparently there was something in the visual dictionary for this movie where the guys he's slaughtering at the very beginning of the movie to get to the Wayfinder. Apparently,
that's
the holocron.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll get it right next time. I see the pattern.
Every time you say
I know. The other one, yeah. So apparently that was on Mustafar, and apparently those were Vader loyalists and cultists that he was killing. So they're like not really supposed to be bad guys, which... Okay, but like he's clearly decimating and killing a lot of people. Like, I don't know how
they were Vader cultists.
Yeah,
and we're supposed to feel how about that,
right?
That he was doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it feels like making that move is like an attempt to say like, oh no, these are bad guys he's killing, not good.
Oh,
people.
I don't know.
Yeah, here's the thing. At the beginning of Force Awakens, he still killed he shot and killed a village of people, innocent people.
Yeah.
So he's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like him bad.
Yeah.
I want him bad.
But the stuff with the school, the school,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like he intentionally killed the students there. That it was an accident. Mm-hmm. So I just spoiled the part of the comic for you, but check it out. Snoke's got some fancy fashion too.
You mean Palpatine?
No, Snoke, because he's got. I mean, Palpatine's got some good fashion too.
No, but Palpatine's the one who's Snoke. So
yeah.
So,
but you've never seen
question.
Palpatine wear a hat like
question.
this.
Is he Is Palpatine Snoke?
Yes.
Or is he just manipulating Snoke and using Snoke as a mouthpiece?
I want to go with manipulating Snoke.
But that's not the way he made it. That's not the way the movie makes it.
Because it says he's seen the rise and fall of the Jedi. So that makes me think it's Palpatine. He saw the rise and fall of the Empire and all that. that was a big part of it. That's why Mace Windu was one of those theories and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if I care about Snoke that much.
I don't care so much about Snoke as much as I care about
Palpatine. How is he operating?
What does this really mean about for the Sith and how do they operate and stuff like that? That I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was actually kind of as annoyed as I was with the lack of plot. I was like, all right, well, that's something you can build on. That's something that you can be like, okay, well, how does this work for the Sith? If this is in fact him embodying this body or co-hosting in this body or parasiting into this body somehow.
Maybe it was like a timeshare in his mind.
Right.
I'm going to go with timeshare.
Timeshare.
Yeah.
Huh. I hope he got the upper half.
This is why I've been suggesting for us to get adult diapers. I mean, you're all about your gold robes and everything.
Look who's got the brown streak now. That's why I always wear dark robes. Hides the stains.
Oh my God.
So stupid.
I know. Palpatine impressions are fun.
They are the best. They are the best. That's another thing about this movie. It's not particularly quotable.
Yeah, well, that's because they decided to just kind of reuse his best of. Do it. Do it. Unnatural. Strike me down. It was literally his greatest hits.
Yeah. I wonder if he even really had to perform much. If they just
No, but I mean, this again, Case is right. JJ's not a good writer.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not great, and it feels like this one was particularly rushed, even even by JJ standards. It feels more Michael Bay than it does JJ to me.
I would still elevate it a little bit more about Michael Bay.
It's above Michael Bay, but it's Michael Bay-esque.
Yeah, but it's
like
here's the problem.
Somebody doing an amazing Michael Bay. An ode to Michael Bay.
Actually, I feel this is a George Lucas impression, not really its own thing. Everything, Terrio and Abrams said it. This is an homage to the serials and everything that.
Yeah. Everybody says that about Star Wars.
It is. It is. This is. I don't think that's deniable in this movie. It is an homage to that, but it doesn't. It finishes. It does actually finish the Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey Joseph Campbell stages, the Master of Two Worlds stage and the Freedom to Live. It does finally accomplish that.
Yeah.
And it finishes that out, but it does it on such a surface level.
Yeah.
And I think we were spoiled by The Last Jedi at really coming to grips with those ideas in an interesting way. And to be perfectly honest, we've not gotten that in almost any other Star Wars movie.
Right.
You can, to some extent in A New Hope, and Empire really does it. Jedi hits the beats in the same way that Rise of Skywalker does, and the prequels hit the beats like
the prequels do.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like I think that's just
Bottom line, there aren't any really great Star Wars movies.
Last Jedi, and
Last Jedi is great.
I'm gonna stand by Last Jedi. I'm gonna stand by Empire and A New Hope. Like those are still like special movies. Those are like A+ for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one was not any of those.
Yeah.
But again, super enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the stuff with Chewie. I love he got his medal. I was so happy about that.
I thought that was extra fan servicey.
Oh, I was so happy.
No. But here's the thing.
Cheer out loud.
But you know what that means, though.
What?
Is Leia's been a bitch for a long time.
She really has.
Yeah, because she's been holding on to that thing. Like you think she's been holding it for like, no, I'm gonna.
Hey, Mas, wait till I die, then get this furry fucker. That's what he gets for pissing on my rug. That's why Han left me. Hang out with that movie.
Right. Yeah, see, well, I thought about it that far too quickly. Yeah. Because, like, on the surface, I'm glad, like, seriously, Chewie deserved that medal. Like,
yes, he did.
You know. But, what? Like, why? Where had it been all this time? I'm almost, like, it almost feels like that original prediction I made about Chewie's medal all those months ago.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it. You deserve some props. Take a lap around the stadium, young man. Did great.
Because it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's like, oh, hey, Chewie, by the way. Found this in this box over here.
Also, why did she take it with her when she's about to die?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. She's just like, well, I really feel
let them find it now.
Yeah, I really feel like she's just like, hey, give that to Chewie.
Yeah. Well, it's poorly thought out the same way the idea of her saying, oh, I'm not going to finish my training because Ben is going to do all these bad things, and
whereas
Ray is going to someday Ray is going to come.
Training might have prevented that.
Right?
Like, it just doesn't make any sense. There's so much about this movie that makes no sense.
Yeah.
It feels like, and
it's one thing like because Last Jedi
shitting on JJ.
Well, here's the thing, because Last Jedi has its plot issues. What?
I feel like I'm shitting on JJ, but Ontario, but it feels like they just needed like 2 more passes on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels rushed.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for him because I think they would have liked to have made a better received movie.
Yeah.
Than what it's getting.
Right. I wonder what would have happened if they even if Rian Johnson didn't like do a whole lot of work on this, but they at least consulted and collaborated with him a little bit, like have him do like a pass on the script. It would have been interesting what would have come out of those conversations. You know?
I guess not enough time.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, you're right. This movie was rushed.
Because it's not that it couldn't have worked with like Terrio and Abrams.
Yeah.
Like,
this movie didn't have to be perfect for me to really like it.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, just think about how different your opinion of The Last Jedi is. You know, just by a little bit of time and looking, it's like, oh yeah, like, and watching them all cohesively together.
Yeah.
Kind of like balances out. You're like, oh, that wasn't as good as I thought it was, and that wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
Like all these movies are real solid 7s.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, they have some big flaws in them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really great things in them, and it's way better than average movie for the most part. Some of them really, really good. Some of them, but for the most part, I give like this series like a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Right.
But this movie feels so much further below that.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a 5.
Yeah.
You know.
It's pretty low. I mean, like for me, I'm sticking with B-. But man, yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, but there are a lot of Star Wars movies around B- for me. The only real C- are Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones for me.
Yeah. And I like those a lot more. Those rose a lot more for me.
Yeah.
In recent rewatches. So makes sense. I don't have a problem with it. I know a couple people have like reached out to me of like, oh, like trying to troll, like especially the Last Jedi haters.
Yeah.
Have been trying to troll me about this movie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not really that upset. I mean, it's an awful. The plot is awful. It
Yeah.
makes no sense, and I could sit here for another 2 hours and just pick apart this plot.
Yeah.
You know, and like
well, I'm annoyed by the Last Jedi haters on this also because they want to say like,
it's a total walk back.
Yeah, and like
not.
it is in some ways.
Some ways it's not.
And yeah, like the scene with Luke's Force Ghost is not a walk back.
That's not a walk back at all.
Yeah.
That's a natural progression of what that character.
Yeah.
Where that character is.
And I've even heard some people say that the fleet arriving is a walk back of like the end of Last Jedi when nobody arrives, and it's like, no,
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you can't have that moment if they arrive and
the two moments are connected. Like it's, it's
if
to
every
have
time
that.
You call them, they show up.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right.
Like that's not drama.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And it's interesting how many people blame a lot of the problems that JJ created on Rian Johnson.
Right, when a lot of those are things that he came up with.
Right.
Like I think it's funny. Like someone complained about like the time. I've heard the complaint, the time gap between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. That there is no there's no gap, and it's like
you start that movie any other place.
You can't. You like JJ teed it up right to the moment that you want nothing more but then to see that next moment.
Yeah.
So
and if you see anything other than that next moment, like people would have been just as angry.
Yeah. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Or like complaints that like, oh, I wish they didn't split up the three of them, but like the three of them were already in the process of being split up at the end of Force Awakens anyway. And they weren't together in Force. All three were never all together in Force Awakens either.
No, they rotate around. And
yeah,
have 20 minutes with each one of them together.
Right.
It's people just like to complain. They like to be mad. It's fine. I'm not mad. I'm not bitter about this movie. And I feel bad for the people who are, because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I feel really sad for some people that I'm seeing on Twitter right now. I'm just like, dude, this should not affect your life that much.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with critiquing the movie. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's people who are legit pissed.
Yeah. And then just calm down.
Yeah, it's a movie. Relax a little
bit.
Enjoy it or don't.
Yeah, I read some interesting posts today in one of my Star Wars groups of like people saying this is the first Star Wars movie that their family or friends got into, and it's like, or their kids got into.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? That's awesome because you know what? At the end of the day, this is for the kids first, you know.
Right. Exactly.
And if it accomplishes that, then I think that's the best thing that can happen.
Yeah. Yep. That's all that matters. It's for the kids.
Yep.
Which I didn't take my kids to see it.
You don't really take your kids to movies anyway.
No, not a lot. Yeah. No, they don't really like them that much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think they're a little too impatient to sit through a 2.5-hour movie.
It's a long time for a kid.
Right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, they'll do it. Aiden will do it more. Melanie still has a shorter attention span. But yeah. But they haven't. They're not totally into it. They're still learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up for this 5-minute episode that we're planning on doing.
And he goes, come on, we'll just do 5 minutes real quick and just let people know that we're still thinking about the movie.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and we were going to talk about it, next week was our plan. And then an hour later.
Oh, well.
So, yeah, I guess we've kind of done it. We'll obviously next week we'll talk some Mandalorian, because by next week we will have seen the season 1 finale. We'll have some Star Wars Resistance to discuss, and maybe we'll have some more refined thoughts on Rise of Skywalker as well. So until then, don't forget to go to our website, certainpov.com. If you want to join the discussion with us, we do have a spoiler channel for the Rise of Skywalker. If you want to hang out with us and talk about it, we got some chat going on there. We're sharing funny tweets, because there have been a lot of fantastic tweets I've seen. Funny and introspective ones, too. So if you got some cool ones to share, we'd love to see them on our Discord channel. You can access that Discord channel on our website, certainpov.com. Until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herder.